What up, students? It's time to start talking some Turkey. And in this case, I mean literally talk Turkey, because I was reading the assignment. I was going through the text about the Ottoman Empire, and I'm just thinking, I think these kids are wondering, why in the heck are we talking about the Ottoman Empire? Why are we talking about Turkey? Well, Turkey is one of the world's most important nations. It's European, it's Asian, it's Eastern, it's Western, it's Muslim, but yet extremely cosmopolitan. It's tied into Western Europe and the United States. It's traditionally been at odds with Russia and the Soviet Union. It is really a focal point of world history. And one thing you have to understand about Turks is they're not Arabs. A lot of people in the West assume because someone is a Muslim that they necessarily have to be an Arab. If you were to address someone from Turkey and call them an Arab, they will respond, "I am not an Arab, I'm a Turk," because they speak Turkish. That is their native language, hence they are Turks. Often when people think of Turkey, they also think of the Ottoman Empire, and that's what your text was focused on. But I wanted to give you some background history before the Ottoman Empire and some incredibly significant history after the Ottoman Empire, so you can embrace what an important country this is. Nonetheless, when the Ottomans ruled, that empire was the closest that Islam has come to replicating the great caliphates of Islam's golden age. The peninsula that is home to Turkey is called Anatolia, which is in a very strategic location. I'll refer to Turkey as Anatolia a lot in this presentation. Don't get confused by that. It's just the peninsula where Turkey is located. It's been a very significant battleground since the dawn of civilization. Do you realize if the United States did not have the option of removing their missiles from Turkey during the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, it's conceivable that World War III would have occurred. 2,500 years ago, the Anatolian Peninsula was ground zero in the epic struggle between the Persians and the Greeks. The Persians would be located in modern-day Iran. This struggle was popularized in such movies like Troy, which I loved, and 300, which I thought was incredibly silly. The battle between the Persians and the Greeks later evolved into a battle between the Byzantine Empire, which was the eastern half of the Roman Empire, and the Sassanid Empire, which was Iran. Now, these two empires fought back and forth over many years. If you remember, when we were talking about Islam's spread in 1181, we were talking about how the Persians and the Byzantines had weakened each other, hence facilitating the spread of Islam. In the year 1000, the Byzantines were in control of much of Anatolia, although they and the Persians kept going back and forth. A very significant battle took place in 1071 called the Battle of Manzikert. It's one of those battles, again, very important, that you probably never heard of. There was a group of warriors called the Seljuk Turks. They moved in and were able to defeat the Byzantines and push them out of the Anatolian Peninsula. And from that point forward, two things happened. Number one, the Anatolian Peninsula became Turkish. And number two, the Anatolian Peninsula became Muslim. The Seljuk Turks were Muslims. Of course, the Seljuks would be destroyed a couple centuries later by the Mongols. But soon after, another powerful group called the Ottomans would assert themselves in Anatolia and beyond. They would create a massive Muslim empire in the Middle East and significant parts of southeastern Europe. Your text focuses on the Ottoman Empire, talks about its achievements, but also its profound and endemic weaknesses. But the Ottoman era, while significant, is just a portion of Turkey's story. You may remember from other history classes that the Ottoman Empire fought on the losing side in WW1. In the aftermath of this catastrophic defeat, the Ottoman Empire dissolved. It had been on a downward spiral for many centuries, as you read about in the text. Anatolia was occupied by the Allied armies after World War I. Significant ethnic minorities push for independence. This includes Armenian Christians in the eastern part of Anatolia and Greek Christians in the west. One man, Mustafa Kemal, asserted himself into this fray. His goals were simple: make Anatolia a Turkish nation, make Anatolia a Muslim nation, expel all allied occupying forces and all foreign forces, particularly the Greeks, and finally, defeat all internal enemies. From 1919 to 1922, the Ottoman government slowly dissolved and Mustafa Kemal grew in power. He led Turkish forces against all opponents. Unfortunately, he continued a policy of ethnic cleansing that was commenced during World War I by the Ottoman government. In the wake of Turkish independence lay one of the 20th century's great genocides. Between 1915 and 1923, the Ottoman Empire, and then later the Turks, under Mustafa Kemal, killed 1.5 million Armenians. It's known as the Armenian Genocide. Other groups such as Greek Christians were targeted as well. But one hugely important thing that Mustafa Kemal did was set Turkey on a course of being a secular state, which was unheard of in a Muslim nation. Secularism means separation of church and state, like most countries in the West. Sharia law would not be enforced by public officials. Women were given equal rights. Universal public education was instituted. Turks were even allowed to drink alcohol. In 1934, Mustafa Kemal was granted the title of Ataturk, which means father of the Turks. After World War II, Turkey became integrated into Western Europe. They are part of NATO and the European Union. But like many nations around the world, there are strong nationalistic forces inside Turkey which would like to retreat into a more orthodox Islamic nation. Turkey will be a hugely important nation throughout your lifetime.